Alright, hey everyone, welcome to our little interview. Here we have Daren with us, who's been in the advertising and event management industry. So, Daren, can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Basically, I'm like you mentioned in the marketing and events industry for the past 6 years. So in the last recent 3 years, I'm actually working more on the advertising aspect of it. So I think that's pretty much about it, right? I've got like 3 years of experience in advertising, and I climbed my way up from like an senior exec all the way to an account manager, and I currently manage a team of 2 people in my team.
Okay, so like you worked in events first, and because of COVID, you switched over to advertising.
Yeah, yep.
Why don't you tell us about like your career path? Like when you first started working, which sector did you enter into?
I first started working in 2016 after graduation from uni. Was working in the events industry. That happened because I actually had an FYP back when I was in poly, and it was to manage an open house event for National Museum of Singapore.
Okay.
So I found it pretty interesting, to be able to be part of the organizing community, to come up with ideas of activations, to present my ideas to stakeholders. That's what we did back then. It was a miniature scale, so it was an interest. I love it.
So after events, you went into advertising straight away.
No, I didn't explicitly choose the advertising life. The life chose me. So COVID happened.
Right.
Yeah. So when that happened, we need to make changes. So when there's marketing, there's two different aspects, right? There's always the general advertising. TVC promos that you see every day. Be it online or offline.
Right.
Events activation is just an experiential aspect of it, whereby you bring people down. So it's an extension of advertising, of marketing.
Okay.
Yeah, and for the connection, it's just because that COVID happened, we had to cut events back then. With all the staying home, no going out,
Right.
kind of a thing. Yeah, so
Yeah, I get it.
event was cut, and then we had to focus more on advertising aspects.
Actually, what should fresh grad do if they want to enter into this field?
Pretty hard to answer that question though, but I think like for someone who wants to enter the advertising field, I think they need to be mentally prepared for a lot of hardship, I would say. The starting is always not the smoothest, and advertising can be pretty brutal, because whatever comms that you make is going to be seen by the entire world.
Right.
So even the slightest mistakes can cause a whole wave of backlash that comes after it. And then I think as a fresh grad, when you're entering into industry, when you are going there to learn, to begin your journey, you have to be like 200% on your toes.
So actually, what skill sets do you think is very important to be in this industry, to be able to survive long in this industry?
I mean, it depends on what you're looking at. Are you looking at it from the direction of a creative, from account management, or from a project management kind of?
Well, let's go with creative.
Yeah.
Kind of skill sets. I mean, if you are a creative, you have to be just basically good with the designing softwares, right? You need to be able to be well with those, and of course keep yourself updated to all the
The latest trends.
yeah, latest trends, advertising. Once in a while, head up to Marketing Interactive, take a look at what's happening, and everything. Keep yourself up with trends, so that you don't fall back behind.
But how do you keep up with the trends? Because trends are every day something new.
Yeah, exactly my point. Because for example, TikTok. Just going through the socials every day. We all know what's happening, what's the latest trend kind of a thing. Advertising just takes on this type of, goes around the floor and evolves. Take, for example, 5-10 years ago, when people are starting out on YouTube and everything, 5-minute videos, 6-minute videos, 10-minute videos, all people are looking into. They're looking into content, how rich is the content kind of a thing. But if you look at nowadays, when you talk about TikTok shorts, YouTube shorts, they last less than a minute. And then also rationale, people don't explicitly look into the screen for 10 minutes. They'll be just like, a few seconds, I'm not interested, I'm just gonna go off.
So would you say the whole advertising game has changed because of short form content? People's attention span is so much shorter nowadays.
I would think so. So I just feel like things are always constantly changing.
Right.
Pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, trends are always changing. So it's always good to head up to look through the socials or go through like Marketing Interactive, read through some articles every now and then, to just keep yourself updated with like what's happening in the industry.
Right.
Yep.
Of course, yeah.
So like this shift from long form video to short form, like now TikTok generally, if you want to create a TikTok video, you don't really need much resources sunk into it. So does it mean like the advertising industry now is flourishing because of short form content?
I don't really think so though. I mean, what makes a trend? Who decides on what the trend is gonna be, kind of a thing. I think if you're asking my opinion, is that people always come up with new trends because they are willing to try the unorthodox. They really try what is different. Say for example, like what I mentioned, like this stuff like 1 minute videos, they don't take much resources. It's easier for agencies to pump it out nowadays. But what happens if like 2-3 years on the road again, people are reverting back again to long-term videos and making it sound like, oh, there's so much concept meaning, I can learn so much from this one video, kind of a thing. What if that happens? And people will change again. For example, take a look at your phones. Back then people used to have those very big phones, a really huge ass phone on your palm, and then they changed to those like iPhone 3 or 4, but it's so small already, your palm. And look at nowadays what's happening. Phones are getting bigger again. Exactly my point. Things constantly change. Baggy jeans, skinny jeans. It always change every now and then. But I think it's because trendsetters, they are willing to think out of the box. They are willing to go unorthodox, and that's where, and that's how trends begin. You have to be daring to think of, what if I'm going to do this? Everybody is doing the same thing, so what makes you different from the others? I think you always have to ask yourself, and that will pretty much.
So expanding on what James said, because with like the rise of short form content, you don't need much skills, you don't need much resources to make these kind of videos, right? Like, so what if someone with, let's say, no experience in advertising, no experience in this industry at all, wanted to get into this industry? Would that be feasible?
Yeah, definitely. I think so too. I mean, you don't need to be like advertising savvy to do this kind of things. I think what you need is creativity and concept. Sometimes the greatest thing just turns out to be great. Take for example, there's the online trend of Stephen He, right? Or Stephen Her. I don't know his surname, how do you pronounce it? The guy that does the emotional damage, that guy.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah, do you think he has talent? I don't think he has talent, but oh my god, the guy has like 10 million followers now. So if you ask me, can anybody do it today? I mean, definitely. Sometimes you just need that one piece of puzzle in your life. You don't need to be super talented about it, but if you feel good about it, you feel that this is gonna work, just go for it. You don't need to be super talented. You don't need to be like well savvy kind of a thing. Where the Alibaba came from, where the Shopee come out from, kind of thing. I mean, the best classic examples that parents always give us, Bill Gates and Microsoft. How does he come about? He doesn't have talent. He doesn't finish, not even under, I think, uni. He doesn't even attend uni, but here it is. Yeah, so talents or like industry knowledge, background, I think sometimes all you need is just like a good idea. Yeah.
Alright.
So if you're saying that anyone can join, wouldn't it make like the market competitive?
Yep. And I think that the market is always very competitive, which is why even for myself, when I speak to clients every day, one of the main things that I always ask myself is that, what makes me special from others? What makes my clients keep coming back to me as compared to going to the others? Yep. So I think it's a question that we have to constantly ask ourselves to be ahead of the pack. What can you offer that is different?
We've gone through the difficulties you find advertising and how you can flourish in here, but what are the things that will make people want to join this industry? Like 3 reasons to join advertising. What would it be?
I mean, the first is I think it's very, for a fresh grad, I think it's quite rewarding, quite refreshing to see your work on a live event space. If today you help out in a TVC and you're just watching TV with your mom, the thing pops up, I'm pretty sure all of my colleagues have done it before. Oh, I did that, mom, I did that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure all of us. I'm pretty sure my entire team, I'm pretty sure anybody who have done that. I think satisfaction is number 1. Number two, it might be for like challenges. It is easy. The work sounds easy, but to actually execute it to where it is, it's a whole bunch of steps and it's very challenging. So often not when people join the industry, what I always hear is that it's not gonna be easy. You need to like really work hard for it and then learn hard from it, grow from it. For me personally, because I'm a very competitive person, I love challenges. So once I overcome all this, I'll be like, wow, oh yes, I made it. The third aspect, personally, I would think like I don't know what to put it, but because I think advertising is in our everyday life. You can't really run from it. The moment you step out of your house, you take a bus. On the bus, it's plating is already advertising already. You can't run from it. So in a way, it impacts our everyday life. So I think being a foot in it makes me to can allow a person to understand like how is the world changing, keeping up with this. Just because it's part of a job, so it just comes to naturally.
Right.
Yeah.
Alright, thank you so much for taking the time to come down for this.
Yeah. Sure.
I think we still have one question. What's one piece of advice you'd like to leave us with today?
For fresh grads.
Sure. Yeah, for fresh grads.
Never take shortcuts. I can't really explain in words what the term shortcuts is. I mean, you guys will eventually find out when you all go to work, but don't take shortcuts because often not when you are someone new, when you're fresh in the company and everything, when you take shortcuts and things might go south very easily when shortcuts are being taken. And if you are someone that is of a junior role, when you take shortcut and things go south, it will turn very harsh on you as well.
Right.
So I think don't take shortcuts. If there is a process to go through it, just go by the process. Until you are somewhat familiar in there for like a year and a half. If then you can start to do it unknowingly. But just in general, avoid taking shortcuts.
All right.
Yeah.
Great.